Wenk. Jay, as a teenager, was a rifleman in Europe with the Third Army. Avid bicyclist, he co-authored the book, what book was that? The Catskills Bicycling Guide, competes in the Senior Olympics. Today he's a fine cabinet maker and lives in Woodstock, where he was the newly elected town board member here. And he is with Veterans of Peace, Jay Wenk.
You know, not all veterans' writings have been written by veterans. Some of them have been written for us. And I'd like to read a few paragraphs from an article in The Nation. Marine Lance Corporal James Jenkins is buried in the same New Jersey cemetery that he used to run through on his way to high school, stopping at the Eat Good Bakery to get 2 glazed donuts and an orange juice before heading off to class. James, who died at 23, is buried in Greenwood Cemetery, the owners told his mother, and they're proud to have him there. During his short career as a Marine, Corporal Jenkins received many commendations recognizing his intense desire to excel, unbridled enthusiasm, and unswerving devotion to duty. It was for heroic actions performed during a 55-hour battle with the Mahdi and militia in Najaf that Jenkins was awarded a Bronze Star for valor. The fighting, which began on the same streets in August 2004 and moved into the Wadi El Salam cemetery, was ferociously personal. When the battle was over, 8 Americans and hundreds of militiamen were dead. After that tour, his second in Iraq, Jenkins could barely sleep. When he did, the nightmares were horrible. He was plagued by remorse and depression, unable to be intimate with his fiancée, run ragged by the adrenaline surge he couldn't turn off. Back at San Diego's Camp Pendleton, Jenkins took to gambling, or gambling took to him. He became addicted to blackjack and Pai Gow, a fast-moving card game where you can lose your shirt in minutes. The knife-edge excitement felt comfortingly familiar. Jenkins went into debt, borrowing thousands of dollars from payday loan companies. Busted for writing bad checks, he was locked up in the Camp Pendleton brig that spring pending court-martial. In the months that followed, he was released, locked up, and released again. He often spoke of suicide. The Marines never diagnosed his PTSD. When his mother called the command seeking help, Jenkins' first sergeant, who had not served in Iraq, told his mother that he thought James was using his suicidal feelings to his advantage. "I have 130 Marines to worry about other than your son," she recalls the sergeant saying. When the command decided to lock him up a third time, Jenkins ran. In September 2005, after returning from Iraq, Jenkins found himself cornered in the Oceanside apartment he shared with his fiancée. A deputy sheriff pounded on the front door while a U.S. Marshal covered the back. The young man, with the intense desire to excel, decided he could not go back to the brig or get an other than honorable discharge. He would not shame his family or have his hard-won achievements and pride stripped away, and he was in pain. While the officers waited for his fiancée to open the door, Jenkins shot himself in the right temple. And this is not an aberration. read. I don't call what I write poems or stories or memorials, memories, blah, blah, blah. They're statements, for lack of a worse term. And where'd it go? Must be seeking Hollywood fame. Ta-da. Ah, here we go. This is called, I guess it's in a poetic form. It's called, What Does John McCrae Know That We've Forgotten? John McCrae was a Canadian surgeon who served with the British Expeditionary Forces during World War I in Europe. He is famous for a lot of things, but he's the man that wrote, "In Flanders fields, the poppies grow between the crosses. In Afghanistan's fields, the poppies grow. They grow so high. Whoopee, we're all gonna die. Want to buy a poppy, buddy? Don't you remember me, Al? I was the kid with the gun, but I didn't look like this before the shelling. We fought the war to end all wars. We fought all the wars. We haven't ended any. We are the shadows. We used to be you. Brother, can you spare a thought? The poppies grow in Afghanistan, making peace, alleviating pain for rich folks, earning bread for the farmers. We're looking at the poppies in Flanders fields. We're looking at the poppies in Afghanistan's fields. We're looking at the poppies in your lapel. We're looking for Osama. Are we looking in the right direction? In this direction, Monster Bush calls the Congress to task. We can't spend this kind of money on children's health. A bullet is cheaper, and whomsoever it hits has no more health problems. Hello, Central, get me no man's land. I want to speak to my daddy tonight, providing his head is where it used to be. So let's buy a poppy, buddy. Let's remember the vets. Let's remember the shadows. Let us not remember the good old boys who sent us into the shadows. Let us not remember the lies. Let us not remember. Let the poppies grow. And one other thing, I wrote this last night. It's a memory of, I call it a different sort of war horror story. In the afternoon, we took a small town near Schweinfurt, not long after our B-17s did a number on the ball-bearing factories there. Our town was a radio manufacturing place with a lot of DPs, slave workers, on hand to do the actual work. They had been treated fairly well by the Nazi standards of the day in order to be able to do the high-quality work that the results demanded. Our tanks had shot the place up, and as we passed the factories, the streets were littered with smashed radios and chassis and tubes. Remember electron tubes? We, our squad, proceeded to the road that led southeast out of town, where we took up residence for the night in a small cottage. We were right next to a larger home, and after making sure that the perimeter was secure, some of us were standing around outside waiting to find out where our cooks were going to set up. A German came out of the house, and since the little that I understood of the language was more than most, he asked me how much a mark was worth. First things first, I guess. When I told him that his money was worthless, but that the marks issued by Uncle Sam were equivalent to 10 cents, he was astounded. He couldn't believe it. He thought I was joking.